Hey guys, what is up? My name is PandaMaster, and welcome to my spoiler-free review of episode 5 of WandaVision. Which, again, I'm keeping it spoiler-free, so we're not going to talk about the big stuff, but boy oh boy, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all that have seen this know exactly what I'm talking about. The third act, basically, of this episode is just... I mean, again, keeping it spoiler free, that we see a lot of plot development both with Wanda and Sword, and I love the dynamic between Wanda and Vision in this show, because as we we've come towards a point in time where we've now gotten to the 80s, right? And we see a shift. Obviously, like last episode, we had fully focused on Sword and all of the stuff going on there, and just, we finally find out that Wanda is seemingly behind this, and now we are sort of back, right? This episode's called On a Very Special Episode, so it's interesting to see that, we're in the 80s, we're continuing, we now, we have Tommy and Billy, right? Which, again, keeping things... I'm going to stop saying that because I've said that like 3 times already in the past minute. But, keeping things spoiler-free, it's interesting to see them as characters. They're definitely very interesting characters. Yes, I know they're babies, but there's a lot of importance to that, and just kind of how they operate in this world, right? And there's a lot of theories, right, about Mephisto, although I heard one theory that makes a lot of sense to me, and that is of a character that I forget the name of. And I personally, I think it's that this is the one. I think this is it. I'm forgetting the name of the person's Twitter that I saw it on, and that's making me very upset. So I am now going to stall until I can figure that out. But basically, this person is a very lesser known Marvel villain, not exactly in the spotlight or anything like that. But it makes a lot of sense because their biggest thing is they use television, right? It's a little bit more like Wanda, or not WandaVision. It's a little bit more. What was I saying? I'm losing my train of thought. Sorry. I'm like trying to find this, right? But I was looking at the wrong tweet. But Mojo, there we go. Mojo. And so I think Mojo honestly might be the person behind this, because again, we right now are being led to believe that this is 100% Wanda's fault, but I think there are things this episode that kind of point towards that not necessarily being the case. Again, don't know. Everything's all up in the air. But Mojo is basically a supervillain that is usually in the X-Men family of characters, which would make sense here, as Scarlet Witch, Wanda, is technically an X-Man, just not in the MCU, at least as of right now. And so he's a slaver who rules the Mojoverse, which is a dimension where all his beings are addicted to his gladiator-like television programs. And he's basically supposed to be a parody of network executives. And so, which I think is really interesting, because if any of you guys have read the new Immortal Hulk comic run, which the newest volume came out and I still haven't read it yet, but the previous what would they be called, arc, the previous arc from the current one, right, where we dealt with I forget his name, but the Minotaur. I feel like he has a different name other than the Minotaur, but it also kind of did the same thing, parody network executives, or just, well, I don't think it was really network. Kind of. It was more like corporate executives in general, right? So it's kind of similar to that, but I think this is a more mature theme. It's like, Mojo is, not that he's a joke by any means, but It's kind of one of those like Secret Invasion-esque things, but like on a much smaller scale, right? That you would like Mojo's the type of villain that you would expect to see an episode, like appear in an episode of like the 90s Avengers cartoon, you know, like that sort of thing, as like a little side villain that gets defeated in like 15 minutes. But I feel like if he is behind this, then I feel like it could make a lot of sense, and also make a lot of sense as a TV show thing, because I believe one of two things is happening here with the MCU television shows. They are using like they're going to use B-level villains, right, to so that they, you know, don't want to devote necessarily a big whole thing to. It's kind of similar to what they're doing in the shows anyway. Like, they don't want to do a Falcon and Winter Soldier movie, so they're doing a TV show. They don't want to do a Hawkeye movie, so they're doing a TV show. Stuff like that. They could be doing that in terms of villains as well. Or, as some people have been theorizing, which I could also see, like if they're doing Mephisto, this sort of be like a prologue, right? And we're seeing, because a lot of people think that we're seeing Wanda basically have access to a ton more abilities, to the point that she needs training. Like, she doesn't understand her own control over her powers. And that would then segue into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And then we see that, you know, maybe at the end of the show we find out, oh, Mephisto really is pulling the strings. And he sort of, like, dissipates. Like, we don't know what happens to him, right? And then he turns out to be the main villain of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, it could be something like that. I think either makes sense. Although I don't think we know enough now to say which would be the, you know, what they're going with. Although I would say literally everybody and their mother is saying Mephisto right now. So overall, I don't think the MCU has really been that predictable in their however many years they've been doing this, like 12 years, almost 13 years. So I feel like they're better than that. I mean, maybe we're just getting too smart. I don't know. But the fact that everybody's saying Mephisto makes me think it's not going to be. I used to totally be in the Mephisto camp. And again, I won't be super surprised if we, like, you know, that is it. I feel like, you know, the MCU has never really been that predictable. And it seems like they're really going for, you know, a mystery here. They're not ones to really drag this out. However, this is their first TV show. And pacing is a lot different on a television series. And I said that back in my episode 3 review, that I thought the pacing was off in WandaVision, and that, you know, we're just kind of being drug along. So maybe, you know, it is. And honestly, I'd kind of be disappointed if it was Mephisto at this point. Unless it was done in a way that was not what we would be expecting. Because, you know, I think if it's got to be something big. If, you know, we keep getting strung along, you know, and because overall not a lot has happened. We just see everybody's confused, and we keep getting little crumbs of, you know, what's really going on here. And I'm really excited to see next episode. We have 4 more episodes left, right? So this was I accidentally said that last episode, and then last week, and I corrected myself, but this is the official, like, midpoint of the series, right? And so I'm very interested to find out what happens later. Also, now that we've officially been introduced to her and everything, it's out of the spoiler realm. I'm so happy to see Darcy back. I'm really hoping at the MCU, and I can't remember if I said this last week. I feel like I did, but I'm going to touch on it again, in that I really hope that these MCU TV shows just bring back all these people. Like, I would love to see... I forget his fate, because he was honestly in a lot of MCU projects, and then he just kind of dropped off the map. But I'd love to see what happened to Selvig. I mean, I don't remember. Maybe there's a reason in the MCU that I've just forgotten why he's not around anymore. But he was in a lot of stuff. Like, he wasn't just in the Thor movies. Like, he was in Avengers. He was in other things. You know, he was kind of, like, hip-hopping all over the place. And then he just sort of dropped off the map. So, I don't remember him dying or anything. So, I'd love to see Selvig again. I'd love to see... God, I don't know. I mean, we're getting Sharon Carter again in The Falcon and Winter Soldier. So, I'm really hoping that these TV shows open up places for more connectivity within the MCU in this cool ways, where we're getting Jimmy Woo and Darcy, and, you know, hopefully we'll get even more cool people. We know this episode sees the return of something really, really big that I'm excited to talk about at length next week, because, I mean, to be fair, there's not a lot to talk about this week, so even if this was a spoiler review, there's not a lot I can say about it right now because there's very little we know. And so I'm very excited to talk next week about that in a spoiler-free context. So maybe I won't be able to talk all that much about it even next week, but yeah, I enjoyed this episode a lot. I am very happy with how WandaVision's been going. I think it's a great show. It's quickly like skyrocketing up. Also, there is a scene, y'all know what I'm talking about, with Wanda and some people that she is upset with. I'm saying so in a spoiler-free way, but you know, to my people who have seen it, y'all know what I'm talking about. That scene, just, so good. Yeah, I'm really excited. It's been getting a lot more cinematic and a lot less like, I love TV shows, don't get me wrong, but you know, I'm excited every time I see that Marvel sizzle reel at the beginning of an episode because it feels like an MCU project to me. Because, I mean, it is, but it feels like I get that same feeling that I feel when I'm sitting in the movie theater watching Avengers or Iron Man or Captain Marvel or any other, like, big movie, right? And so it makes it feel so much more than just a TV show. And again, no disrespect to TV shows. I love them. I think they're great. To be honest, I think TV shows are much underrated, as I personally think they require a lot more work than movies because you're dealing with a lot more footage, and I think the pacing is a lot harder to accomplish. So I think TV shows deserve a lot more credit than they get, and I think if anything, TV shows should get a higher budget than movies. But anyway, yeah, I think they're doing a great job in terms of just cinematically making this an event, right? And we also just got news that Falcon and Winter Soldier is coming exactly when we thought it would. March. Hold on. Let me confirm. I think it's like the 12th, right? No, 19th. March 19th, which is 2 weeks after the finale of WandaVision, which makes sense because the 12th will be the Marvel Legends episode dedicated to Falcon and Winter Soldier. So, as of right now, it seems we are going to actually be getting Marvel projects every single week in 2021, which is absolutely mind-boggling, and I love it, and I hope that this is a thing that continues and is great. And so, yeah, but let me know what you guys thought of this newest episode of WandaVision down in the comments below. Like if you like this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time for whatever it is I'm doing. All right, see ya.